We got Yonkers Gang War, Elm Street Wolves versus the Strip Boys. These really documentaries.
US charged rival gangs with a series of federal crimes, including murder, narcotics distribution, and firearms possession in Yonkers, New York. The defendants are members or associates of either the Elm Street Wolves or the SLIXZZ. At all times relevant to this indictment, the Elm Street Wolves, the organization, was operating in and around Yonkers. The objective of the Elm Street Wolves, which was also known as the Wolf Unit, was the enrichment of the gang by selling crack. Their main spot was located at the intersection of Elm Street and Oak Street, but the organization also sold crack on various streets within a several-block radius. They had spots on Linden Street, Ash Street, Maple Street, Riverview Place, Walnut Street, Chestnut Street, Poplar Street, Beach Street, Victor Street, and Van Cortlandt Park Avenue. The Elm Street Wolves.
Yo, bro, like I was giving a pass last time because the 300 had an indictment, but bro, he knew every single street. Like, bro, that was like 20 streets you just named.
Ash Street, Maple Street, Riverview Place, Walnut Street, Chestnut Street, Poplar Street, Beach Street, Victor Street, and Van Cortlandt Park Avenue. The Elm Street Wolves controlled crack sales within this several-block area by prohibiting and preventing non-members, outsiders, and rival narcotics dealers from distributing crack in the area controlled by the organization. Certain people associated with the Elm Street Wolves, such as individuals who had grown up on Elm Street or who had committed acts of violence on behalf of the Elm Street Wolves, were also permitted to sell crack cocaine within the area. The Strip Boys, which was also known at various times as the Slum Crew, the Small Time Gangsters, STG, and, more recently, Chris Coke Entertainment or CCE, had similar.
Like, bro, they don't name them shits in, like, paperwork, bro. They don't know what they formally named themselves as. Like, bro, how does he know this, bro? Like, bro, I don't know, bro. Like,
similar movements.
Shit
they
crazy,
sold
bro.
Crack and weed.
Either doing his research
members
or
of the organization also sold heroin, cocaine, and dust. The Strip Boys used the Schlobem housing project on Schroeder Street and a strip of Palisade Avenue, which runs alongside the housing project, as the base of operations. Members and affiliates of the organization occupied other turf within a several-block radius of Schroeder Street, including Walsh Road, Lafayette Place, Locust Hill Avenue, St. Casimir Avenue, New School Street, Ravine Avenue, and parts of Elm Street. The Strip Boys also had zero tolerance for outsiders. GMF Grimy Mother Effers, another gang that hailed from the projects, were also permitted to sell drugs within the area. Although neither gang had a rigid hierarchy, the Elm Street Wolves was led by, among others, Stephen Knowles, aka Manny Fresh. Knowles began selling crack cocaine on Elm Street with other members of the Wolves at least as early as 2000. Knowles developed into the organization's chief enforcer because of the pain he put in. Knowles' commission of multiple shootings against rival gang members and other individuals who challenged the members of the organization led to this. Elm Street Wolves worked together to ensure that all members of the organization profited from the organization's crack cocaine sales. Generally, multiple members would sell $10 or $20 quantities of crack on the corner of Oak Street. The organization's members typically would store the bags of crack, which they referred to as twists, in their mouths, undergarments, or in nearby stash locations, such as mailboxes. Buildings in the vicinity of Elm Street were used to by members to consummate drug sales with crack users. These rival gangs enriched their gangs by similar tactics. The Strip Boys, like the Wolves, would share a sale with a single customer if the customer requested multiple bags of crack. Everybody was eating. The members of the organization referred to the sharing of crack sales in this fashion as breaking down. These gangs would routinely pool their money together within their respective sets to purchase crack or powder cocaine that they could cook into crack from common fashion as breaking customer if the customer requested multiple bags of crack. Everybody was eating. The members of the organization referred to the sharing of crack sales in this fashion as breaking down. These gangs would routinely pool their money together within their respective sets to purchase crack or powder cocaine that they could cook into crack from common suppliers. The Strip Boys were led by, among others, Tone Kip, Kashim Little, aka Cash, and Christopher Cockley, aka Brax. The Strip Boys who supplied crack to other members included a man named Chili, other dudes like SLIXZZ, Little Gotti, Slide Off, Salute, and Ross. Some members and associates of rival gangs shared firearms in order to protect their drug territory and, specifically, to protect themselves against rival gang members. The Strip Boys had a few individuals down with the squad, referred to as the shooters. The shooters were David, Hines, another named Triggermain and Wheezy. Elm Street Wolves members, including Romy, Reem and Meech.
That's a crazy name.
Named Triggermain and Wheezy. Elm Street Wolves members, including Romy, Reem and Meech, supplied the crack on their side. Associates of the Elm Street Wolves, including the twins and E, agreed with members of the Elm Street Wolves to distribute crack in Yonkers. Among other things, these associates applied large quantities of crack cocaine to the Elm Street Wolves and otherwise aided the criminal activities of the Elm Street Wolves. Once the crack was acquired from one of the organization's suppliers, they would weigh, cut, package and store the crack at different stash houses. Baggies, razors, and scales could be found there as well. The Elm Street Wolves were known for committing armed robberies. When the prices of the drugs jumped, they hit the streets and robbed dealers for their work. The three wolves, Pesci, Dom and Duterte, were responsible for most robberies on behalf of the gang between 2005 and 2009. During the war, multiple shootings, beatings, stabbings, and assaults against one another took place. In 2007, a man named Justin Degree shot at Kashim Little, but Little survived. Degree was sentenced to 5 years behind this shooting. This same year, Stephen Knowles and another member attempted to murder Triggerman of the Strip Boys. On the 4th of July, 2009, a guy named Cartier, an Elm Street Wolf, was attacked, pistol-whipped, and robbed at gunpoint by members of the Strip Boys. Stephen Knowles, aka Manny Fresh, along with Compton and another co-conspirator, drove to the SLIXZZ housing project. Knowles and co-conspirator discharged firearms at members of the Strip Boys. This resulted in the death of Christopher Coakley, a leading member of the Strip Boys. The death of Christopher Coakley and the high tension among street gangs caused James Bostic, the executive director of the Nepperhan Community Center, to cancel midnight basketball that week. The climate in the community is bad, said
Midnight basketball just sounds crazy.
Bostic, whose program to give young people recreational activity in the summer draws hundreds to the Warburton Avenue Community Center's outdoor basketball courts. There are a lot of emotions flying high.
Oh, that's fire. Then I thought it was just like open gym, like in the community center, and it would just have open gym at midnight. That just sounded dangerous. But if they had everybody popping out to the basketball game, it's at midnight. That sounds like a vibe.
Bostic said there was tension and probably gang members with guns among spectators during midnight basketball last week. About a dozen Yonkers police cars went to the center to maintain peace. During this time, the Elm Street Wolves were aligned with members of O Block, a gang based on Oliver Street, and members of the Cliff Street Gangsters, a gang based on Cliff Street. They put in pain together, but we will cover these affiliated gangs in another video. In 2010, more shootings take place. Cruz, aka Chili, was shot multiple times. We will get back to him. In one situation during 2010, 6 people were shot during a robbery. Police said Carlton McLeod, 23, and Kashim Little, 21 at the time, was shot in the Cromwell Towers apartments at 77 Locust Hill Avenue, just after 1 a.m. A 5-year-old boy and a 17-year-old were shot as well, but they survived. Police were looking for 3 men who were spotted running from the scene. Kashim Little would not survive the ordeal this time. Carlton McLeod also died. Ernell Jones went on the run for almost 2 or more years after the murders at the Locust Hill apartments. He eluded police for some time with a cross-dressing disguise. Eventually he would be apprehended in Chicago during a traffic stop. The police recovered a loaded firearm. In May 2013, Cruz pled guilty to participating in the Strip Boys narcotics conspiracy. 1 month later, in June 2013, Cruz testified at the trial of Stephen Knowles, the leader of a rival gang known as the Elm Street Wolves. At that trial, which was held before United States District Judge Kenneth M. Carras, Cruz denied conducting crack sales with the Strip Boys. He also retracted prior statements he had made to Yonkers Police Department officers after he was shot multiple times in April 2010, statements that supported the government's evidence that Knowles was his shooter. Although the jury convicted Knowles of the majority of counts against him, including the murder of another Strip Boys member, Knowles was found not guilty of the attempted murder of Cruz. At yesterday's sentencing, Judge Ramos found that Cruz's testimony about his crack sales at Knowles's trial was false and an obstruction of justice. In summary, Judge Ramos stated, "Make no mistake, Mr. Cruz. You substantially increased the amount of time you will spend in prison by your decision to testify falsely at Knowles's trial. Cruz willfully and knowingly committed perjury by lying, under oath, at Knowles's trial. Judge
Literally.
Ramos also found that Cruz was not entitled to a guidelines reduction for acceptance of responsibility, holding that his testimony demonstrated that he did not satisfactorily accept responsibility for the crime conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine with others which he was convicted of. Judge Ramos calculated Cruz's advisory guidelines range, as modified after his false testimony, as 188 to 235 months of imprisonment. Judge Ramos then imposed a sentence of
That's like 180, 180. I know one, bro. That's like 10, 20 years.
188 months of imprisonment.
188 months, bro. That's like that's a long time, bro. That's like 16 some years,
at the low end of the guidelines range.
Fuck?
In so doing, Judge Ramos made clear that Cruz's sentence was significantly increased because of his decision to lie on the witness stand on behalf of Knowles.
Of course, that's perjury. Like
although this indictment took place almost a decade ago, crime still goes on in the area.
Damn.
It's the same corners, different generation. That intersection, Elm Street, Oak Street, and its residents are no strangers to the violence. In recent times, such as 2020, Chaz Mitchell, a man in his 20s, was killed here. Even more recently, the summer of 2021, June, 3 suspects, one as young as 17, were arrested and charged in connection to a daytime drive-by shooting in Yonkers that injured 4 people. Authorities said that someone inside a car opened fire at the intersection of Oak and Elm Streets around 4:15 p.m. 3 men and a woman struck by bullets. The woman was shot in the chest and was still listed in critical condition Saturday, Yonkers police said. Yonkers Police Commissioner John Mueller had said all 4 victims were expected to survive. A total of 4 suspects were apprehended after the shooting by a team of officers from neighboring departments, with assistance from the FBI. The alleged gunmen and accomplices were tracked by license plate readers and picked up in Mount Vernon after a short foot pursuit with authorities, Yonkers police said. It is said that the shooting was gang-related.
Damn, like that? Damn. Good up like that. What a wonderful place Yonkers is. Yeah, I thought people were saying that Yonkers was like the suburbs of New York. But I mean, there's bad places everywhere. I know that, but I don't know, bro. It sounds crazy up there.